more than 95,000 in 10 days. Egyptians, Bangladeshis, Vietnamese and Chinese. However, one UN agency says it's concerned about the nationalities that aren't coming across.
The fact of the matter is that today we're not seeing West Africans, we're not seeing Sub-Saharan Africans coming out of the borders. The information that we are getting from inside Libya is that most of those nationals are terrified. They're living at home, they're hiding, their fear of being victims of xenophobic violence. We're getting emails of people who say they're running out of water, they're running out of food, they're running out of medicine.
Among the thousands of people who've left Libya, we found one group from Ghana. We were told Africans are being forced to fight by Gaddafi's loyalists.
I've even set my eye on some of my brothers in AlJazeera. They will catch all of the blacks peoples and they will give you gun. And they will be at the back and they are saying that we should go forward and fight, once we don't even know how to fight.
They were beating us, harassing us, they killed some of them. Plenty of people, they've killed some of them in Zaria, Sirte and Benghazi, some of them.
So was it quite terrifying when you came on this long journey to the border?
On the road, we have about 100 barriers on the road. But the soldiers on the road, all of them, they are thieves.
While conditions here at the border continue to ease, the area of most concern now is those that haven't made it this far. People who, because of the colour of their skin, are in hiding, fearful of both the government and opposition supporters inside Libya. James Bayes, Al Jazeera, on the Tunisian-Libyan border.
And the plight of foreigners trapped in Libya is also worrying the UN Refugee Agency. Sabella Wilkes spoke to us from Geneva and started with the latest on aid efforts on the Tunisian border.
We've already established a camp with a capacity for 10,000 people. We're bringing in more tents. In the next 24 to 48 hours, we hope that the capacity of that camp will double. But it is a huge challenge. It's very cold at night, but we are hearing that particularly the water and sanitation situation is very critical. So it is imperative that people are helped to get home as quickly as possible. We're in touch with literally hundreds of refugees who say they're feeling absolutely trapped in Libya. They say that they're feeling hunted, they're feeling targeted. But from what the refugees have been telling us, they're saying that all Africans from sub-Saharan Africa are very much at risk at the moment. There's huge suspicion that they're involved as being mercenaries with the Gaddafi and pro-government forces. So this is obviously putting a target on them. They say that they're extremely frightened even to go out onto the streets to find help, to find food. We've heard a number of accounts of refugees being attacked. We've heard a number of accounts indeed of refugees who've been killed.
Well, the political crisis in Libya has had a significant impact on global oil prices. The country is Africa's largest single holder of oil reserves. But it isn't just the cut in supplies to world markets that's of concern. As Tim Friend explains, it could affect Libya's eventual recovery.
With a protracted fight in prospect, the crisis over Libyan oil grows by the hour. It's Africa's largest single holder of reserves. Officials, Gaddafi loyalists, admit production is half the normal output of 1.6 million barrels a day. The reality is it's probably been slashed by 2/3. And because Libya relies on oil exports for much of its income, a damaged oil industry would radically slow up post-conflict recovery. So how bad is it? Around 80% of the proven oil reserves are located in and around the Sirte Basin, which includes much of the fighting. Oil has reportedly stopped flowing at the Nafura oil field. The El Bouri oil field off Libya's western coast is the country's largest producing oil field, where production is also affected. Other key areas include the Al Hamra fields and the Mazouk Basin in the south. There, production is continuing as normal, according to the Spanish operator Repsol. Once produced, the crude is piped to the main terminal points for export. Libya exports its light crude from 6 major terminals. 5 of those are located in the east, which has mostly fallen into rebel hands. The Libyan Air Forces bombed the oil terminal town of Brega as pro-Gaddafi troops try to recapture the key port. At the Brega oil facility, Production has been slashed and there are few employees left.
It's really the source of government revenue for Libya. I think it's somewhere it's well above 90% of the actual export revenue which the government can collect, which comes from crude and gas and so on. So any kind of future government of Libya will need the hydrocarbon production.
The head of the National Oil Corporation refuses to give any figures on current production levels, but says oil production has halved because foreign workers, most of them technicians, have fled the fighting. He says none of the country's oil installations have been damaged and that Libya is continuing to produce and export. But oil companies can no longer rely on Libyan supplies and will look elsewhere. Tankers at Libyan ports have been demanding $50,000 a day, triple the normal rate. If the crisis persists, supply cuts to world markets could push oil above $130 a barrel within 4 weeks. Tim Friend, Al Jazeera.
Pro-democracy protesters in Bahrain have changed tack and staged a mass car protest on the streets of the capital, Manama. It was part of ongoing demonstrations against the ruling family. Meanwhile, Bahraini opposition group leaders have said they're now ready for talks with the government without preconditions, but they're standing by their demands.
In our letter, we said we would like to see a declaration from the regime at the beginning of the talk, at the early sessions of the talk, stating the following, that in principle, they agree to the end of 2002 abolition of 2002 constitution and electing a new constituent assembly based on one man, one vote to put a new constitution.
Lawyers for Julian Assange have officially appealed against a judge's ruling that the WikiLeaks founder be extradited to Sweden to face allegations of sexual assault. Documents were lodged at the High Court in London, but the appeal process could take months. Assange will remain on bail, living in the home of a WikiLeaks supporter. The Australian maintains that sexual relations with two women were consensual. Doctors in Britain have brought a stillborn baby girl back to life by freezing her brain. Ella Claxton was starved of oxygen at birth, but the extraordinary treatment has given her a second chance at a healthy life. Paul Brennan explains.
9-month-old Ella Claxton plays happily with her mother with no visible ill effects from what was a traumatic birth. Her mother's placenta had ruptured. It took doctors 25 minutes to get Ella's heart beating. And even then, it looked like the baby would be left brain damaged. Ella, they decided, would have to go to a specialist unit 50 kilometres away, in Cambridge.
I didn't know what was going to happen, and they explained about this cooling treatment, that they were going to wrap her up and she was going to be cold for 72 hours, and we didn't know what the outcomes were going to be, but it was a matter of taking time by time, bit by bit.